Good evening. My name is Diane and I'm a psychic and a member of the Queen Psychic Club. Tonight is the second anniversary of this show, and as a special edition I will be interviewing Bob Cecilio, the founder of the Queen Psychic Club and the regular host of this show. Tonight Bob will be sharing with us how his involvement in psychic phenomena came about. I truly believe you will find his story very interesting, and that Bob was extremely skeptical and very far removed from anything that is metaphysical. Bob lived an ordinary life, worked every day, struggling like most, was the father of 3 children, until the unfortunate tragedy of his son Richard. He passed away in 1991 of AIDS. Since AIDS is a very big concern of all of us today, and many lives have been taken, I think you will find how one man's tragedy changed his life extremely interesting. Welcome, Bob.
Good evening, Diane. It's good to be here. It feels a little uncomfortable or unfamiliar sitting on this side, but it's good to be here.
I really, knowing you and knowing all about you and how your life had begun before you got into this, I mean, I'm a psychic, so I would say you were once my enemy, being skeptical. Could you please share with the viewing audience, prior to your transformation, your philosophy of religion?
Well, I don't like to beat on the Catholics too much, but I was born and raised Catholic. I had these upbringing of fire and brimstone from our generation. Everybody was fire and brimstone, burn in hell if you did anything wrong, you know, miss Mass or eat meat on Friday in those days. You know, you were doomed to burn in hell, and I had the fear of dying, and because no one is perfect. And when you die, if you weren't perfect, you went to hell, and that's a hell of a thing to do, be damned. And I kind of avoided the church, except for weddings and funerals. Unfortunately, more funerals than weddings.
So basically, your religion was going to church for funerals, weddings?
Yeah, I wasn't a practicing Catholic. I was raised in it, but, you know, went through the sacraments, you know, baptized, communion, and confirmation. And that was about it, and wedding, but no, I wasn't a practicing Catholic.
What was your view, or were you familiar at all with psychic phenomena or psychics?
Now, every once in a while, I'd look it up in the newspaper, see what my horoscope was. And back in the late 60s, they started, the computers really came out, and they had a big computer in Grand Central Station, and I found out, you know, what my horoscope was. That's the real, and a couple times, you know, went to see fortune tellers, but I never really went. I just saw them, you know. I wasn't too familiar with them.
If I would have approached you back then as a psychic and asked you if you wanted a reading, would you have been open to what I had to say?
I wouldn't waste my money.
Okay.
I don't feel that way now, especially with you.
Well, we'll get there, that's for sure. The transformation you made is really profound, and I hope that the audience gets to see that as they watch this. Could you explain to us your relationship with your son prior to his death?
He was a unique individual, very talented, very creative, very warm, and we had our differences, father-son differences. Always loved him, respected him. I always sensed he was gay. He never openly came out and told us, but we wouldn't love him any less. You know, that's a mistake parents make, especially when a child dies of AIDS. There's a lot of anger and hostility toward themselves. Not so much as the child. I guess they're hostile to the child, meaning they're God. The child leaves them and they're hurt, so they're angry at the child for leaving, but they're also angry with themselves for feeling what they felt, because we are human.
Maybe not accepting.
Not accepting, but you see, when a child is born, the parent doesn't ask, well, if he's this, will you love him any more or any less? Or if they're this way, will you love them any more? It's unconditional love when a child is born, and most parents will take it at birth unconditionally. But society dictates a lot of things to us, and we form judgments and criticisms, and this is what happens. So it isn't that we love the child less, it's what we fear society says.
I was just going to say, it reflects back to what you were saying before about church. Fear, fear, fear.
Yes.
There's so much fear instilled that the soul and the spirit of the person closes off and walks through life almost like in a straitjacket.
And we're put in life to experience it, not to fear it. I found that out.
What happened after your son died?
Well, I'm sure I'm speaking for my wife, too. We had the fears from our upbringing that, because he was gay and immoral, according to what people say, that we feared for his soul, and I was really worried, and that he would be suffering for eternity. And then when it came about that we did get a psychic reading, and we did have communication.
How did that come about? Could you backtrack?
What,
how you went about going forward?
Well, we had gone the route of the bereavement groups, which was fine, and another very close friend had lost a mother and father, and she in turn had gone to George Anderson, a famous psychic. He doesn't need my publicity, but he is very famous. And we were fortunate enough, and looking back now, I realize now we were given the opportunity, because I believe it's part of the path I'm on, to get to him, because it's so difficult to get a reading with him, and we got him the second time we tried.
No coincidence.
No coincidence. There is no coincidence. Oh, I have learned that there's no coincidence. And we had the reading, and I said, well, how does he do it? Because the information was so exact, and I don't want to get into it in this program.
Wasn't it your wife who made the appointment?
Oh, sure. I
dragged you along?
Oh, yeah, she was the one. Yeah, she was the one that wanted to go, and I said, well, I'll humor her. It was a couple $100. I said, I'll humor her. I'll go. She wanted to go, and I was going to stay in the car. It was winter. I said, well, I might as well go inside instead of freezing. And we went in, and I was just amazed at the information. It was so specific, so exact. The information was brought about that only we would know, and not only for our son. I was for my mother, my father, my father-in-law. He named these people by name that was impossible to research, and some of it went back 35 years.
Was there any specific message that you received from your son Richard at that time?
The most specific message that was given, because it was an introductory. I believe the information is only given to us as we can accept it and understand it. So the basic messages from all the people was to say that they were all right, and they're together, and that there is a continuum, that they're around us. That was the message. So it's general.
As a medium, I do channel deceased people.
Yes, and you've given me a few beautiful messages.
I see the look of the client, the shock. Sometimes they don't even know what they experienced until days later. So after this experience, you walked out of his office, his home, and what happened? I'm a left-brain thinker, strictly logical. Everything had to add up, Like most people.
Like most people. Logic makes sense. It has to add up, be very critical. And
scientific.
Scientific, yeah. I said, well, how's all this possible? And again, I had to research. I said, well, I started reading books and...
Anything particular?
Oh, creative visualization, opening the channel. I was very fortunate because I moved fast. People realize we are only doing this a couple of years, and they realize the ground we've covered. The right books jump into your hands. What's supposed to come to you will come to you.
You know that now.
I know it. No, I didn't know it then. No, I didn't know it then.
So what, you started to read and then?
I started to read. I did a few meditations from a book. And mind you, I had no experience at all. And a book was Opening the Channel. And Packer and Romaine, I think it is. And I did a couple of the exercises. And before you know it, I started channeling. And I got a sign from Archangel Michael.
What is channeling for those who don't know?